Alrighty, as you've seen on this outlet, there's several things that were done wrong here. They had the white wires on the brass screw and the black on the silver screw. Here in the country I was born in, we use a 14 American wire gauge on 15 amps, 12 American wire gauge on 20 amps. Black is live, white is neutral, and the bare, the green is the ground. Red and blue are also live colors. However, you may find white live in a switch loop or a 220, 240 volt circuit where the appliance does not require a neutral. So our black wire always goes on the brass screw, and our white always goes on the silver screw, and our ground goes on the green screw. So there's several things done wrong here. You only put one wire around each screw. You put the wire around the screw the direction the screw turns, and you want to make sure you don't get the insulation caught under the screw head. So we'll take this apart and I'll show you how to wire it the proper way. And these ground wires were around the green screw the wrong direction. And this wire was not put around the screw, it was just tucked under the screw head, so that is not proper either. Okay, so now we'll start getting this together the right way. Okay, so get all our ground wires out here. They were just twisted. So we'll start with our ground wires. So we can make pigtails here. So what we'll do is we'll take our 3 ground wires here and put our tail in. We'll twist them so that they start going even here. Get them all nice and flat so they all twist nice and evenly here. We'll cut them off so they're all even on the end here. And you can either use a barrel crimp sleeve like this, and you'd use a crimper like this, and you just squeeze it. But since this is just a tutorial, I'm not going to waste that. So we'll put a wire nut on it. So that takes care of our ground wires. Now we have our 3 white wires and our 3 black wires. So we're going to use a Wago or a push-in connector that Ideal makes. We'll pigtail this one way, we'll do the black wires another way. Okay, so we'll get our wires all nice and straight, make sure they're all nice and flat. Okay, so we'll hold our wire up to the Wago, make sure we get it's not too long so that we get our copper all the way up to the top here and our insulation into the yellow, so we can push this in. Our copper comes down to the bottom here and our white goes down into the yellow. So I'll do the same with this one. I'll bring it up. I'll hold it up to the Wago here. So I clip it the right length here. I'll get the insulation up into the yellow and the copper up at the top. I'm going to make sure it's perfectly straight before I put that in there. Now, and you can see the copper coming all the way up to the top of the connector there. Now we'll do our last wire here before we put our tail in. I'll clip it so it's not too short and it's not too long by holding it up to the Wago, making sure the insulation goes into the bottom of the yellow and our copper comes up to the top. And I'll just push it in. I see all my copper coming up to the top there. And this will be our tail that goes to the outlet. And we'll strip it like this. You always strip it with the hole that matches the wire you're using. So we'll put it into we'll hold it up here, make sure it's not too short, but slightly short. So we'll just take off a tiny little smidgen here. And we'll make sure we get our white insulation up into the yellow there a little bit. Push it in like that. See, all our copper is coming up to the top here. So this is our tail that will go to the outlet. Now we'll get our blacks together and we will use a wire nut for them. You can twist your wires, or if you don't twist them, you can just line them up even and put them in the wire nut, but I'm going to twist them because I like to twist them. And this is our tail. So we'll get our insulation even at the bottom here. We want the insulation to be even at the bottom like this. Get our first two started. Bring our third one. Get the insulation even at the bottom there. Wrap it in. And we'll bring our fourth one in. The insulation even at the bottom there. Twist it so it goes in evenly. Now we'll clip them so they're even with the shortest one, like this. Now look at the end there, make sure all 4 wires are even. And we'll put our wire nut on. Okay, now we're ready to hook up our outlet. Okay, so we'll strip off about an inch of insulation on our two wires. We'll make our loops. Now when we make our loops, you always put them around the screw, the direction that the screw turns. So when you tighten the screw, it closes the loop. So when you hold the device up to where you're going to be putting the wire, if it's going backwards, you just spin the loop around, and I'll show you. Okay, so we made this one backwards. So you just turn the loop like this, and that would be backwards. So if you turn it that way, and now it's the right direction. So you always put the wire around the screw, the direction that the screw turns, and you close your loop. Close it the direction the screw turns. Okay, so here in the country I was born in, our outlets are polarized. The white wire goes on the silver screw, which is the wider slot. The black wire goes on the brass screw, which is the narrow slot. And I always like to close the screws you're not going to be using. So we'll put our black one on the brass colored screw here. You want to make sure you don't get any of the insulation under the screw head. So that's what we want for a connection on the brass screw. Okay, now I'll show you the white. So you always put your wire around the screw, the direction the screw turns. And I'll show you something else you really don't want. You don't want to have your wire stripped long like this. For either color and have too much copper showing behind the terminal. You don't want that either. You want the insulation to come up to the just to the bottom of just to the blue, or before, or anywhere before the screw head, or just up to where the blue is, like that. So this is the proper way to install a wire and outlet and then when you fold them in, I like to fold the ground wire zigzag across the top or the bottom, and up and down like an accordion for the white and the black. So when it goes in, the ground wire will stay away from the terminals. Okay, so I'll bring the camera down and show you up close how it's all done the right way. All the copper pushed into the Wago and all the way up to the top of the plastic on the inside. And the white going all of the insulation going into the yellow part. And the black wire around the brass screw. And you can see how the wires are in the wire nut. Alrighty, so thanks for watching. That is how to properly wire outlets here in the country I was born in with multiple wires in it. Peace.